Now I'd like to introduce our commencement speaker, Dr. Paul Fabrizio. Dr. Fabrizio is a professor of political science at McMurry University. He received his Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Southern California and both his MA and his PhD from Emory. This fall semester, Dr. Fabrizio began his 28th year here at McMurry. So to put this in perspective, McMurry University has been educating students for 101 years, and Dr. Fabrizio has been here for almost 30% of that time. And what a 28 years it has been. My first recollection of Dr. Fabrizio is when I met him at a Southern Association of Colleges and Schools annual meeting. I was at a different school in a different state, but already he was seen as someone who could take a big project that was important to the university and see it through. This spirit of excellence was recognized by his colleagues when he was named as the 2006 Gordon R. and Lola J. Bennett Faculty Award recipient. Throughout the years, Dr. Fabrizio was willing to take on a number of challenging assignments. He served as the Dean of the School of Arts and Humanities and the Vice President for Academic Affairs. He also was willing to step in during a time of change to fill leadership voids. In many ways, he could be known as Mr. Interim, serving in that capacity for not only academic administrator roles, but also as the interim athletics director, and even once as the acting president when Dr. Russell, my immediate predecessor, was on sabbatical for a summer. We were discussing at a Leadership McMurry session recently the importance of saying yes to assignments in certain critical times. Dr. Fabrizio has definitely had that ministry of presence coupled with a willingness to accept assignments when the institution needed him throughout his McMurry career. But perhaps the most important reason to admire Dr. Fabrizio is his impact on students. When I first began making my rounds to visit McMurry alumni in both New Mexico and Texas, the one name I would consistently hear regarding impactful professors was Paul Fabrizio. Even after almost 3 decades of university service, he's still willing to sponsor the McMurry student government and has been a big reason why we have seen a revitalization of that organization recently. Without professors like Dr. Paul Fabrizio, McMurry University would not be what it is today. Please help me welcome Dr. Fabrizio.
Thank you, Dr. Harper, for those very kind words. To the members of the Board of Trustees and friends of the university, to my fellow faculty and staff, to the parents, family, and friends of the graduates, and especially to the graduates, I'm really honored and humbled to be here. Now, it's important that we gather today to recognize the graduates on their commencement, the beginning of a new chapter of their lives. We also have to acknowledge the presence of someone here on the stage who is beginning a new chapter in her life. Dr. Sandra Harper is retiring in a month, and so she will be starting something new. She has led the university through unprecedented times, including the Great Recession and, of course, the COVID pandemic. And through it all, she has remained dedicated to our core values. Would you please join me in thanking Dr. Harper for all her service and leadership and to wish her the best. Now, graduates, you all have the program in front of you, and if you're bored during my talk, you can read my bio. The bio has I don't know if the right word is a mistake, but it's incomplete. It doesn't say, it lists my jobs that I've had, but it doesn't say anything about how I left those jobs. So, I want to tell you a story about my first job after college. So I graduated from USC and I was hired by a company called J.D. Power and Associates. It's a marketing research company that specializes in the automotive industry. One day, I'd been there about 4.5 years by this time. One day I was doing a car show for Jaguar. Jaguar, of course, the British sports car and luxury vehicle manufacturer. I was the moderator for a focus group of sports and luxury car owners who had just spent an hour looking at new Jaguars. And now they were sitting down in a group discussion that I was leading about what they liked and what they didn't like about those cars. In another room, watching on closed-circuit TV to this discussion, were the executives from Jaguar. After the focus group was over, the head of marketing for Jaguar came up to me, and he had a very British accent that I won't imitate, but he said to me, "Are you a car guy?" I knew immediately what he meant, but I needed time to think of an answer, so I said, "What?" He responded, "Do you think and dream about cars all the time? Do you talk about wheel covers and headlamps and drag coefficients with your friend? Or is a car just another product?" I took a breath and said truthfully, "It's just another product." He said to me, "I thought so, and I don't want you working on my cars ever again." He then turned and went straight over to my boss. I was removed as moderator for the next focus group that night, and a few months later, I lost my job. Okay? You can see why I don't put that in the bio. Over the course of my life since then, that question has probably been one of the best questions I've ever had. That question, "Are you a car guy?" has spurred me to think and critically examine my life every step of the way. I now offer that question to all of you graduates as you leave McMurray. Use this question as a framework to examine your choices and your decisions. You can ask the question in your own way and in your own words. For example, am I a business person? Am I a movie person? Am I a counselor person? Am I a family person? Now, I have to tell you, this is not, and I want to repeat, it is not a call for you to follow the passion in your life. There's enough people who talk about that. This is not a call for me to tell you to do what you love. Not that I have anything against that, but most of us have to work to live, and so that we can afford to live and take care of our families. Let's be honest, some of us have passions that are not going to pay the bills. Instead, this is a call for you to lead an examined life, to not be afraid of critically probing your life and asking yourselves hard questions about who you are and what you are doing. You've all probably already done this in various circumstances, so this is nothing new, but the questions and answers don't get any easier once you leave McMurray. You will find that sometimes there are unsatisfactory answers to these questions, no matter what you choose. Sometimes there is confusion and mystery, and sometimes there's no answer at all. You will have to confront questions like, what kind of person am I? What do I want to do next? How should I handle this decision? How will I work with this person? In other words, car guy questions. Now, I want to explain to you how I use this question. So, after I left J.D. Power and Associates, I went to the seminary to study for the ministry. I've always had a keen interest in my Christian faith. I asked myself the question, am I a ministry guy? Over and over during my time in the seminary. When I realized that the answer, which had started to be yes, became no, I left the seminary. A professor at the seminary suggested I go to graduate school to study politics. I asked myself, am I a politics guy? 35 years later, I'm still saying the same answer. Yes, I am, for better or for worse. At Emory University's graduate school, I met a beautiful woman named Ginger. We started dating. Then I asked that question, am I Ginger's guy? I answered yes then, and I still do today. When I earned my PhD, I had an offer to teach here at McMurry, and I also had a potential one at another school in Florida. Am I a Texas guy? Am I a McMurry guy? I'm still saying yes to those questions. Now, this question doesn't have to do with just big things like jobs and marriage. It can do with smaller but equally important things. When one of my bosses a long time ago asked me to, quote, leave my morals at home and treat a client unfairly, I had to ask myself, am I an ethical guy? I host the McMurry podcast called McMurry Minds. This is a shameless plug. It's on Spotify. If you got a chance, go listen to it. More than 20 different faculty from humanities, religion, and social sciences have been on that podcast to talk about these car guy kind of questions. It is fascinating to hear their stories as they struggle with decisions about who they are and how they want to live their life. My message for you graduates is to not be afraid of the questions and the challenges behind those questions. Don't be afraid of thinking hard and thinking critically. I cannot tell you, no one can tell you what to choose for your answers to those questions, but I am telling you that the questions will lead to your thinking about what kind of person you are. Early in my time here at McMurry, I met with various people from law schools around the country because I serve as a pre-law advisor. The dean of Pepperdine Law School out in California told me, and I remember it very distinctly, he said, McMurry in the end has one job, and that is to train students in how to think. Now, many of you graduates have also been trained for a career. But when you come down to it in the end, the lab assignments, the math tests, the readings, the books, the papers, the essays, the practices, the games you played, all of them have trained you how to think. Think as a business person. Think as a counselor. Think as a teacher. Think as a nurse. But think, always think. I now have a big question that I'm struggling with. As Dr. Harper said, I've been here for 28 and a half years. Cindy Martin, our interim vice president for academic affairs, she told me I have been here for 10,226 days. So I have a question. Am I a retirement guy? I struggle with that question. I invite you all, as graduates today, to struggle with the questions that you will have. I wish you the best as you think. Congratulations as you commence your new life. Are you a car guy? Thank you.
Well, I think you can see why some of the alums still, all these years later, really think about the impactful professors in their lives, and they mentioned Paul Fabrizio. And Paul, we're very glad that you're a McMurray guy. Let's give him a round of applause.